For decades, the Prince family name has commanded ultimate respect and a terrifying, unbreakable silence. But tonight, that silence was shattered in the most explosive, devastating way possible. A hidden, underground, and deeply disturbing piece of footage featuring Jay Prince Jr. has just leaked to the darkest corners of the web, and it is spreading like a raging wildfire that nobody can put out. This is not just another petty industry rumor or a fake blog post. This is the exact kind of footage that destroys empires overnight. And just when you thought the streets were going to swallow this massive scandal whole, the unthinkable happened. The untouchable godfather himself, Jay Prince Sr., was forced to step completely out of the shadows. He just broke his silence, and what he said has sent a chilling, bone-rattling warning to every single rapper, blogger, and leaker breathing air right now. If you thought the hip-hop world was messy before, strap in because what I am about to show you on Gossip Aura is going to violently change the power dynamics of this entire industry forever. Do not dare click off, because the final seconds of this video will leave you completely speechless. To truly comprehend the sheer magnitude of the catastrophe unfolding right before our very eyes, you have to understand the foundational bedrock of the Prince family legacy. We are not talking about some overnight viral sensations or flash-in-the-pan music executives who got lucky on the internet. We are talking about James Prince, the absolute, undisputed architect of Southern hip-hop. This is a man who built Rap-A-Lot Records from the muddy, unforgiving trenches of Houston into a multi-million-dollar global empire. Since the 1980s, Jay Prince Sr. has been the ultimate godfather of the South. His reputation was forged in pure iron. He is a man who speaks softly, but carries the absolute heaviest stick in the room. Throughout the decades, his name has been associated with terrifying power, unquestionable loyalty, and an unwritten rule that you simply do not ever cross the Prince family under any circumstances. If there was a dispute in the industry, Jay Prince was the judge, the jury, and the executioner who handled it quietly behind closed doors. The respect he commands is so deep, so terrifying, that even the biggest megastars in the world literally bow their heads when he enters a room. But heavy is the head that wears the crown, and trying to pass that crown down has proven to be the most dangerous move of his entire life. Enter Jay Prince Jr. Over the last few years, the heir to the Houston throne has found himself caught in a relentless, suffocating whirlwind of controversies. From the tragic, heart-wrenching loss of Takeoff at a private event hosted by Jr., to the endless, swirling rumors surrounding the Duke the Jeweler tragedy, the internet has been absolutely merciless. Junior's name has been dragged through the mud, dissected by podcastos, and targeted by street commentators who feel the new generation of the Prince family just does not carry that same untouchable aura as the father. For years now, the streets have been whispering. They have been saying that the armor is finally cracking. They have been saying that Junior is moving recklessly, exposing the family's deeply guarded operations to the messy, unforgiving light of social media. Every single time a scandal erupted in the past, Jay Prince Sr. would step in, drop a carefully worded statement, and the entire industry would immediately fall back into line out of sheer terror and respect. The family has always relied on the strategy of total silence, never letting the public see them sweat, never letting the bloggers dictate their narrative. They operated on the cold principle that the less you say, the more they fear you. But what happens when the damage isn't coming from a rumor? What happens when the damage is captured in ultra-clear, undeniable, and utterly humiliating high-definition video? This was the ticking time bomb that everyone in their inner circle knew was eventually going to detonate. You can only control the narrative for so long before the truth bleeds out. For months, underground forums and encrypted Telegram chats have been buzzing about a secret vault of content. A stash of videos held by someone who had unfettered access to Junior's most private, unguarded moments. People thought it was just an urban myth, a boogeyman story invented by internet trolls looking to farm engagement. But that myth just became a cold, hard, terrifying reality. The legacy that took almost 40 years to build, a legacy cemented in blood, sweat, and undeniable street dominance, is suddenly teetering on the absolute edge of a cliff. The respect that shielded them is evaporating, replaced by a morbid, rabid curiosity from millions of fans who are watching the Houston dynasty crack in real time. This isn't just a PR nightmare. This is a full-blown existential crisis for the Rap-A-Lot empire, and the foundation is crumbling under the weight of this unprecedented leak. It started at exactly 2:14 a.m. on a random Tuesday when most of the industry was dead asleep, completely unaware that a digital earthquake of apocalyptic proportions was about to hit. A burner account on X, with 0 followers, no bio, and a pitch-black profile picture, uploaded a raw, unedited, 2-minute and 45-second video file. The caption was just 3 chilling words: "The Empire Falls." Within 10 minutes, that video was ripped, downloaded, and re-uploaded across hundreds of underground hip-hop forums, Reddit threads, and encrypted Telegram servers. Before the sun even came up, the video had amassed over 5 million views, and the culture was in a state of sheer, unadulterated shock. Let me paint the picture of this footage for you, because the raw, visceral intensity of it is something that words can barely capture. You're going to feel the anxiety just hearing about it. The video is shot from a slightly low angle in a dimly lit, violently claustrophobic backroom. It looks like the abandoned VIP section of an underground, unsanctioned club, or maybe a heavily guarded warehouse deep in the trenches of Houston. The air is visibly thick with cigar smoke, and the tension radiating through the screen is so heavy it practically suffocates you. In the dead center of the frame is Jay Prince Jr., but listen to me very closely. This is not the confident, polished, diamond-draped executive we see flexing on Instagram. He is visibly cornered. He is sweating profusely, his eyes darting frantically around the room, and his body language screams absolute, uncontrollable panic. Surrounding him in the shadows are 4 massive, physically imposing individuals. Their faces are completely obscured by dark bandanas and pulled-down hoodies, but their demeanor is terrifyingly calm. They aren't yelling. They aren't throwing punches. They are commanding the room with a chilling, predatory silence that is far scarier than any physical violence. One of the masked men leans in, getting inches from Junior's face. While the audio is slightly muffled by the heavy, thumping bass of a distant speaker, the captioning done by internet sleuths reveals a conversation that is nothing short of catastrophic for the Rap-A-Lot legacy. The masked man is forcefully demanding paperwork. He is mentioning millions of dollars in untraceable, offshore funds, and he is explicitly naming highly protected, dangerous figures operating within the Houston underworld. He corners Junior with a question about who is really pulling the strings behind the scenes. And the most shocking, earth-shattering moment happens at exactly the 1:45 mark. Junior, looking completely defeated, swallows hard, nods his head, and his voice cracks as he says, "I'll give you the routes. I'll give you the ledgers. Just keep my father's name out of this. I'll give you everything." Let that sink in for a second. The heir to the most feared, historically untouchable empire in the history of hip-hop was just captured on film capitulating, begging, and seemingly selling out his own family's most guarded street secrets to unknown operators. The internet completely shattered. The blogs went into an absolute frenzy. Viewers were obsessively analyzing every single pixel of the video, praying it was some sick, twisted joke. But it wasn't. They recognized Junior's custom, one-of-a-kind diamond pendant shining in the dim light. They matched the exact placement of the tattoos on his forearm. This was not an AI deepfake. The Prince of Houston had been pressed, filmed, and exposed to the entire world as totally vulnerable. The immediate aftermath was pure chaos. For the first 4 hours after the leak, the Prince family fixers initiated a massive, frantic digital wipe. It was a scorched earth PR campaign. Copyright strikes flew like heat-seeking missiles. Entire Instagram gossip pages were inexplicably, permanently suspended. Twitter accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers vanished into thin air just for sharing screenshots of the room. A screenshot of a leaked text message allegedly from a top-tier music PR executive went viral, reading, "Burn the whole timeline down. We cannot stop the leak. The boss is furious." But the internet is undefeated. The harder they tried to aggressively scrub the footage, the faster it multiplied. It was the Streisand effect on steroids. And then, Just when the public thought the sheer, excruciating humiliation of the video was the absolute peak of the drama, the mother of all twists hit the timeline and stopped everyone's heart. Internet detectives, who had been obsessively enhancing the footage frame by frame, zoomed in on the reflection of a dark, tinted window in the background of the room. They isolated the reflection of the person actually holding the camera. It wasn't a rival gang member. It wasn't a federal agent. It wasn't a random street goon looking for a quick payday. The enhanced reflection clearly showed the distinct, unmistakable hand tattoo of one of Junior's most trusted, day one associates. A man who had stood beside him at every red carpet, flew on his private jets, and ate at his family's dinner table for the last 5 years. The call was coming from inside the house. Junior hadn't been ambushed by some unknown ops. He had been perfectly set up, betrayed, and sold out by his own inner circle. The very people eating off his plate were the ones slipping poison into his cup. This wasn't just a street extortion. This was a highly calculated, deeply personal assassination of his character, orchestrated by the people he trusted with his life. And as the internet fully digested this horrifying betrayal, a terrifying question gripped the culture. What is J. Prince Sr. going to do to the man who just publicly destroyed his son? By midday, the entire music industry was entirely paralyzed. Group chats involving A-list celebrities, massive label executives, and notorious street figures were exploding across every platform. Nobody knew how to react because nobody had ever seen the Prince family bleed like this. If someone from the inner circle was willing to cross them so flagrantly, it meant the invisible shield of absolute fear that had protected the Rap-A-Lot legacy for 40 years was officially gone. The streets were tasting blood in the water, and the internet was cheering for the chaos. And then, the Godfather stepped into the arena. At exactly 4 p.m., J. Prince Sr. uploaded a video to his official Instagram account. There was no flashy intro, no promotional music, and no corporate PR language. He was sitting in a dimly lit, heavy mahogany-lined office, wearing a pitch-black tailored suit. His face was a mask of cold, terrifyingly absolute fury. His eyes were devoid of any normal human emotion, staring dead into the camera lens like an apex predator looking at trapped, defenseless prey. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. And that is exactly what made it so profoundly bone-chilling. To the individuals who believe they can play God with my family's name, Senior began, his voice a low, gravelly whisper that vibrated through the speakers of millions of phones. You have mistaken patience for weakness. You have taken kindness for blindness. I know exactly what room you were in. I know exactly whose hand was holding that phone. And I know exactly what you thought you were going to achieve. You thought you could fracture a foundation built on solid rock. But all you have done is sign a document that you do not have the currency to pay for. He paused for a long, agonizing moment, leaning closer to the camera, his gaze piercing right through the screen. To the man who stood in my home, ate my food, and smiled in my son's face while holding a dagger behind his back, there is no rock heavy enough on this earth for you to hide under. The internet cannot save you. The blogs cannot protect you. I am going to make an example out of you that will be remembered for the next 50 years. The video ended abruptly. No caption. No tags. Just pure, unfiltered dread hanging in the air. The reaction was instantaneous. The internet erupted into a state of absolute, unhinged panic. DJ Academics literally ended his live stream early, visibly sweating, telling his chat that he didn't even want to comment on the situation because it felt too real, too dangerous for the culture. 50 Cent, notorious for trolling everyone, posted a screenshot of the video with a caption, "Oh nah, the old man is outside. I'm going to mind my business today." Whack 100 hopped on Clubhouse, screaming that the streets of Houston were about to turn into a literal war zone and advising anyone remotely connected to the leak to pack their bags and leave the country immediately. But the leaker was not done. The betrayal was far deeper, far more calculated than anyone could have possibly imagined. Less than 30 minutes after J. Prince Sr. issued his terrifying death knell to the industry, the burner account on X reactivated. Everyone expected an apology. Everyone expected the leaker to erase the profile and beg for his life. Instead, The account posted a highly encrypted, password-protected file with a digital countdown timer set for exactly 2 hours. And the caption? It sent a shockwave through the culture. "You only saw what I allowed you to see, old man. Let's show the world what your son offered them in exchange for his life." The realization hit the hip-hop industry like a freight train. The first video wasn't the main event. It wasn't the climax. It was just the bait. The leaker wasn't shaking in his boots over Jay Prince Sr.'s warning. He was actively taunting him on a global stage, holding a completely devastating part 2 over the head of the entire multi-million-dollar empire. The escalation was astronomical. The hunter had suddenly become the hunted, and the entire legacy of Houston's most powerful family was sitting at the absolute mercy of a ticking digital clock on an anonymous Twitter account. Fans around the world sat glued to their screens, watching the seconds melt away, terrified of what would happen when that timer finally hit 0. The social media explosion that followed was something straight out of a dystopian nightmare. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok completely broke down under the sheer, ungodly volume of traffic. The hashtag Houston Falls became the #1 trending topic globally in less than 45 minutes, completely overshadowing actual world news. Fake fan debates morphed into full-blown digital gang wars. The timeline was completely fractured into 2 fiercely opposing sides, tearing the culture apart piece by piece. On one side, you had the absolute loyalists. These were the old-school hip-hop heads, the street historians, and the industry veterans who revered Jay Prince Sr. as an untouchable deity. They were posting massive, detailed threads outlining the brutal history of Rap-A-Lot Records, reminding these internet kids that the Prince family had survived federal indictments, DEA probes, and violent street wars in the 90s. "Y'all are playing with a sleeping giant," one viral tweet read, racking up over 200,000 likes in an hour. Jay Prince Sr. didn't build an empire by letting snakes live in his garden. That leaker has less than 24 hours before he becomes a ghost story. They argued that this was a masterclass in manipulation, that Sr. was intentionally baiting the rats out of the ship to completely cleanse his inner circle before striking back. But on the flip side, a massive, overwhelming wave of critics, empowered by the internet's shield of anonymity, were tearing Jay Prince Jr. to absolute shreds. They argued that the Prince family's terrifying reign was officially over, claiming that the fear factor was permanently gone. Hip-hop commentators were dropping emergency podcasts, capitalizing on the chaos to farm millions of views. Jay Prince Jr. is a liability, screamed one prominent YouTuber in a clip that completely took over the algorithm. He talks tough on the internet, but the second he was pressed in real life, he folded like a cheap lawn chair. He sold out his own family's secrets. The Prince name is dead in the streets. The celebrity reactions only fueled this catastrophic fire. Rappers who had historically paid homage to the Prince family were suddenly completely, terrifyingly silent. The deafening silence from major Texas artists was heavily analyzed by fans, with people claiming that the industry was officially distancing itself from a sinking ship. Meanwhile, Boozy Badass jumped on Instagram Live, visibly stressed, pacing back and forth and screaming, "This internet stuff is getting too dangerous. Y'all are playing with real lives. Leave the OGs alone." Sauce Walka allegedly dropped a subliminal warning on his stories that Houston was about to become extremely unsafe for out-of-towners looking for clout. The Shade Room and Say Cheese actually had to disable their comment sections because the gang-affiliated threats being posted were getting completely out of control. The tension in the culture reached an absolute, unbearable boiling point. This wasn't just a family dispute anymore. It was the real-time public execution of a dynasty. Fans were counting down the seconds on the leaker's timer, treating the destruction of a real family's legacy like a highly anticipated pay-per-view event. The collective thirst for the downfall of the untouchables was terrifying to witness. The entire hip-hop industry was holding its collective breath, eyes glued to the burner account, completely unaware that the situation was about to evolve from a messy street scandal into a massive, unprecedented legal catastrophe. Because the leaker was about to drop a bombshell that nobody, not even Jay Prince Sr. himself, saw coming. The digital clock on the burner account ticked down to its final, agonizing seconds. 3, 2, 1, 0. The entire internet refreshed their timelines simultaneously. The encrypted file unlocked. Millions of people hit play at the exact same moment, expecting to hear Junior giving up street routes or confessing to local industry crimes. But what flashed across the screen was something that made the blood run completely cold in the veins of every single person watching. The second video was not shot from a phone. The angle was completely different. The footage was black and white, highly stabilized, with a chillingly familiar digital timestamp running across the bottom right corner. In the top left corner, barely visible but undeniable to anyone who knew what to look for, was a translucent, glowing watermark. Department of Justice, Exhibit 4A. The internet completely froze. The narrative violently shifted so fast it caused physical whiplash. The man holding the camera in the first video wasn't just a rogue, disloyal associate trying to extort the family. He wasn't a street rival looking for a quick payday. He was a highly placed, deeply embedded federal informant wearing a high-definition wire. And the masked men pressing J. Prince Jr. in that dark, smoky room? They weren't Houston goons. They were undercover federal agents conducting a highly illegal, off-the-books sting operation to completely dismantle the Rap-A-Lot empire from the inside out. The audio in the second video was crystal clear. It captured Junior not just talking about street routes, but explicitly detailing international wire transfers, offshore shell companies, and the exact locations of hidden safety deposit boxes containing decades of the family's most devastating, highly classified secrets. Under the immense pressure of the sting, he had practically handed the feds the master key to the entire kingdom. But the absolute most shocking, heart-stopping revelation was still to come. As the video played, a live news bulletin suddenly flashed across major networks, forcefully interrupting the internet's collective panic. Helicopters were swarming a massive, heavily gated compound in the affluent suburbs of Houston. The bold, flashing red chirp at the bottom of the news broadcast read, "Breaking, FBI and DEA Joint Task Force raiding multiple properties linked to Houston music mogul J. Prince." J. Prince Sr.'s chilling, bone-rattling threat to the leaker earlier that day suddenly took on a horrifying, catastrophic new context. He wasn't publicly threatening a street kid. He was publicly threatening a federal witness. The Godfather had played right into their hands, handing the authorities the exact probable cause they desperately needed for witness intimidation and racketeering. The trap had been flawlessly executed. The empire wasn't just falling, it was being legally, systematically, and violently erased from the map in real time. As the live helicopter footage zoomed in on federal agents breaking down the massive front gates of the Prince estate with a battering ram, the burner account posted one final, chilling tweet: "Checkmate." But a massive, terrifying question still remains unanswered as the sirens wail in Houston. Who exactly is the day one informant that wore the wire? And is J. Prince Sr. actually inside that raided compound? Or did the Godfather realize the trap just in time and vanish into thin air? This is the most insane, rapidly developing story in the history of hip-hop, and we are quite literally watching the end of an era unfold live. What do you guys think? Did J. Prince Jr. completely destroy his father's 40-year legacy, or is J. Prince Sr. already 3 steps ahead of the feds? And who do you think wore the wire? Drop your raw, unfiltered opinions in the comments below, because the debate is already getting toxic. To stay ahead of the curve, smash that subscribe button and destroy the notification bell right now. You are watching Gossip Aura, and my inside sources are already sending me the list of who is getting arrested next.
Stay locked in.